All right, Unit 7. What we're going to talk about this unit is rational expressions. To be successful in this unit, you're going to have to be able to factor. If you can factor, we're not going to have any issues. If you can't, I hope we learn at some point or get the help we need. All right, so let's start with factoring. X squared plus 8x plus 7. When you factor, some of you guys may have learned other methods. I don't care. As long as you can get it done. As we go through the video, pause it when you need to, when you get a new problem, and I start working on it, pause it, you try to work it and wait for me, or do it and see if we match. If not, figure out what happened, but don't just watch this and say, yeah, watch the video and try the homework without understanding it. Do the work. All right, for this first problem, the factor. Because it doesn't have a leading coefficient, I'm gonna go straight to my parentheses. Our rules, when the last term is positive, you're going to use the sign in the middle. So I'm going to put a plus and a plus. I'm going to break down x squared into x and x. And what I need two numbers. Two numbers that multiply to give me 7 and add to give me 8. And the only two options I have are 7 and 1. So I'm going to go x plus 7, x plus 1. For each and every of these problems, if you FOIL and clean it up, you should get what you started with. That's your check. So here's my FOIL for my factoring. All right, this next one. Two parentheses. This is a different one, but we're still going to go through the same process. My last term is negative. So it's going to be a plus or minus. I'm going to break down x squared into x and x. I don't have a middle term, so I need two numbers that multiply to give me 16. And because my signs are different, subtract to give me 0. Because I don't have that middle term. And the only two numbers that multiply to give me 16 and subtract to give me 0 are 4 and 4. And I get x plus 4, x minus 4. This is my difference of squares. Two perfect squares separated by a minus sign will always work out like this. All right, this next one, a little bit different because it has that leading coefficient. So when we have a leading coefficient, we're going to multiply the coefficient and the constant in the back together and get 12. I'm going to look for two numbers that multiply to give me that 12. And because my last term is positive, add to give me 7. When the last term is positive, we add to get the middle. When the last term is negative, we subtract to get the middle. So my two numbers, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, I'm going to use 3 and 4. Last term's positive, I use the sign in the middle. So I'm going to pick a positive 3 and a positive 4. I am going to leave my first and my last term of my trinomial the same, and I'm going to take apart a positive 7x into positive 3x plus a 4x. Because 3x plus 4x gives me that 7x in the middle. When we factor 4 terms, we group by 2's. So looking at these first two, I'm going to take a 3x out of both of these. So if I divide by 3x on both of them, I get an x plus 1 left over. For this to work, I'm going to do the same thing on the back, and I have to have an x plus 1 left over, so I'm going to take out a positive 4. Because when I distribute this, I get what I have. So now, my solution, my factors, are going to be what's on the outside, 3x plus 4. In that parentheses, that was the same both times. X plus 1. And that one's factored. Okay, so try number 4. I'm going to let you start. Pause it. And then I'll start working. I'm going to multiply to get 60. Subtract to get 17. move over here. 60 is 1 and 60, no, that doesn't subtract, give me 17. 2 and 30, that's 28. 3 and 20, that's 17. So I want to have a negative 17. So because my last term's negative, it's a plus minus. I have to decide 3 minus 20 or 20 minus 3. To get negative 17, I want 3 minus 20. So again, I leave the first and the last the same. I'm going to take apart the middle term into these two, because a positive 3x minus 20x gives me my negative 17. 3 times 20 gives me my 60. If you're okay to here, pause it, group by 2, and finish it. Take out a 3x, 4x plus 1. I need a 4x plus 1 left over, so that means I need to change the signs. So I'm going to take out a negative 5. 3x minus 5, 4x plus 1. That's the factor. If we can do that, we should be good. If not, get in touch with me somehow. All right, so now, this is the new part of the lesson. I have negative 27, x to the third, y to the third, over 9x to the fourth, y. I want to simplify. Because all of these are multiplied together, I could do some canceling. So looking at this, negative 27 divided by 9 is negative 3. So I simplify that. Now I'm going to look at the next piece. X to the third over x to the fourth. What I see is I have 3 x's up top and 4 x's on the bottom. X to the fourth is x times x times x times x. So when I cancel, 3 of these are going to cancel the top and bottom, leaving a single x on the bottom. 3 on top, 4 on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I cancel, I'm left with a single x on the bottom. Same idea here, y to the third over y means I have an additional y squared on top, and that's my answer. So I look at the numbers and I divide. I look at my exponents and I subtract and put the leftovers where you had more. All right, number 6, we cannot do the same idea. We cannot just keep canceling because these are terms added together. That's one single statement. So what we're going to do, and this is the lesson pretty much, is we need to factor. So it takes a couple seconds. Factor your numerator, factor your denominator. Last term's positive, use the sign in the middle, and that's the case for both of them. X squared break up into x and x. Multiplies give me 25, adds give me 10, 5 and 5. Multiplies give me 20, adds give me 9, 5 and 4. Alright, so that's my factor. Now, since I have x plus 5 times x plus 5 and x plus 5 times x plus 4, now I can cancel individual pieces. I have an x plus 5 on the top and the bottom. I get my solution with an x plus 5 over x plus 4 gives 1. X plus 5 canceled a single x plus 5 on the bottom. That's the main idea for the rest of the lesson. We're going to factor, and we're going to cancel what's the same on the top and the bottom. All right, so for this one, we got to do more math. Same idea. So take some time, factor each piece. You need to factor, this is going to be the long way, difference of squares, factoring without a leading coefficient. So do that math. All right, 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. All right, this is going to be a plus plus because last term's positive, use the sign in the middle. I'm going to multiply to give me 6. Add to give me 7, which is 1 and 6. So I leave the 2x squared, I leave the positive 3 the same. I'm gonna put plus 1x plus 6x because of these numbers. Group by 2's. Take an x out of the front, 2x plus 1, which means I have to have a 2x plus 1 left over back here, which means I need to take out a positive 3. So I get x plus 3, 2x plus 1. So I'm going to leave that over here. Now, difference of squares, x plus 4x minus 4. Multiplies give me 15, and adds give me 8. That's 3 and 5. X plus 3, x plus 5. They're plus plus because the last term is positive. Use the sign in the middle. Alright, so from here, I did my factoring, which I'll say 100 times. That's what you need to be able to do. I can cancel things that are on top of each other and the things that are diagonal from each other. So that means, let's see what we got. These x minus 4's cancel. These x plus 3's cancel. Let me see, 2x plus 1, x plus, nothing else does. So I write what's left over. That's my answer. It's all about the factoring. If you're struggling factoring, lean over and have somebody help you this in the class. Google it. Look on Khan Academy. Look somewhere. But we've got to be able to factor. All right. Number 8. Factor. When you're done factoring, watch my video, then pause it, we'll finish it. All right. Difference of squares. Two perfect squares separated by minus sign. That's a plus 2. A minus 2. Same thing on the bottom. A plus 1. A minus 1. I don't have to change that A plus 1 on the right. And a lot of people struggle to solve and factor that last piece. Not solve, just factor it. This is a very simple problem. It's not anything crazy. If I look at these two pieces, I recognize they both have an A in common. So I'm going to take out a greatest common factor, and that's all I'm going to do. Take it as A times A plus 2. Don't try to work too hard. So I've factored each of my pieces. Now I'm going to cancel what's the same on the top and the bottom. Alright, so I have an A plus 1 and an A plus 1. I have an A plus 2 and an A plus 2. And these three pieces are not exactly the same as anything else, so I'm going to leave those. That's my final answer. Alright, so looking, this factoring here, to get to this, it's the same thing I did here to get to there. It's the same thing I did here to get to here. Alright, so we've done this a bunch. Where's another one? Here to here, here to here. It's the same thing, greatest common factor. So don't overly stress on that. Alright, number 9. We got 3 more problems, I think. 3 or 4. I'm going to divide this time. 8x squared y over x plus 1 divided by 6xy squared over x plus 1. To divide fractions. You were probably taught dividing fractions, you keep, change, flip. I'm going to say this, when you divide fractions, instead of dividing, I'm going to take 8x squared y over x plus 1, and I'm going to multiply, kept the top the same, change to the division to multiplication, flip, and I'm going to say the reciprocal. Instead of dividing fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal, which is the same idea as the keep, change, flip. So I rewrote this as a multiplication by the reciprocal. Now to cancel, right, I have an x plus 1 on the top and the bottom. They have to be on top and bottoms. All right, now I'm going to look at 8 and 6. 8 and 6, I can take out a 2. Leave it a 4 and a 3. Looking at the x's. X squared over x, so I have x x over a single x cancels, leaving a single x on top. For my y's, I have y over y squared, leaving me with a y on the bottom, giving me a 4x over 3y. So the 8x squared y over 6xy squared is the same concept we did here. And crossing the x plus 1s is the same concept we did here. Alright, so when you divide fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal, you keep change flip. So we didn't even have to factor there. Alright, for this next one, okay, I'm dividing. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to put the 2x on the bottom. Okay, this one factors pretty easily. So at this point, factor on your own and catch up with me. Alright, this one factors without too much thought, I hope. If it does, as long as you can get there. And lastly, this is that same concept we just talked about in the last problem. That's my difference. No, this is where they have a common factor. So I'm going to take out a 2x. Greatest common factor. So I factor the first two pieces. I factored the 2x squared plus 2x plus 1. I flip the fraction, multiply. Now, I'm going to cancel. Alright, so what do I see? I have an x plus 1 and an x plus 1, a 2x and a 2x. Alright, this isn't the same as anything, those are all leftovers. So I'm going to say 2x minus 1, x plus 1 over x plus 4. It's all about the factoring. If you can factor, you should be okay. If not, I'll say it again, find out what you should be doing somehow. Alright, last one. Alright, so I'm dividing, and I see, wait a minute, if I'm dividing, alright, so I'm going to flip it over, but that's the only one that looks like it factors. So I'm going to get 4 minus x over 3 minus x times, take out a greatest common factor, keep change flip. Alright, so from here, none of those pieces cancel each other out. I have a 4 minus x and x minus 4, they're not the same. 3 minus x and x minus 3, those aren't the same, but they're close. So what I can see, and what I hopefully you do too, is these two are the opposite of each other. Positive 4, negative x positive. So what I can do, I can factor out a negative sign. Factoring out that negative sign changes the signs. Now, those two are the same, and they cancel each other out. That's a good thing. But again, these two are the same idea. They're the opposite, so I'm going to take out a negative. Now those two are the same, which is a good thing, which cancels out. So now all I have left is a negative sign, and a 3. So a negative over a negative is a positive. So what happened on this one, while we're doing this one, is if you have a factor that's the complete opposite of another factor, factor out a negative sign, and that'll allow you to cancel it, then you just deal with the negative sign at the end. Alright, so that's the lesson. You are allowed, when you have two factors, or two parentheses, I can't talk, two fractions multiplied together, you can cancel vertically. So these different colors will tell you which ones you're allowed to cancel. I can cancel up and down here, here, and here. I can also cancel something that's here and here, or Those are the pieces that can cancel. The same colors, if they're in those positions, can be canceled out with each other. Factor, you have to have things multiplied together 3 times x minus 3 to be able to factor them. And then cancel. All right, so you have homework in the classroom. If you have any questions, send me an email. Talk to the person next to you. All right, have a great one.